All right, string slingers, let's level up this D chord here. I'm assuming you already know how to form the D chord in this first position here. And we're going to look at how to get a whole bunch of different D chords right in this same area, and then maybe a couple common licks you do with this D chord, phrases and things that will level up your playing, that make you sound really pro. And that's what we're after, right? So here we go. Here's the regular standard D chord. Now what about if we want to get a D minor chord out of this, right? Well, we're going to take that third of the chord. We're going to lower that down 1 fret. That's how we get a minor chord. We take a major chord and we lower the third. So we've got now there's one of those little tricks. You see, I just played the D chord and I lifted my finger off that F sharp and let the E ring out, the open E string, and then I came down, I hammered down onto that F sharp. You've heard that in a million endings of songs, right? Beautiful. All right, so we've got D major, D minor. How about a D7 chord? Well, we know that the 7th, if we go to the D major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, is C sharp or D flat, okay? We're gonna flat that one note to get a D7 chord. So we're gonna add a C into the D chord. All right, where's our nearest C? Well, it's right here. So we're gonna take this D and move it down to C. Then we're gonna get our D note by playing the open D string. So we've got, so everything stays the same in the D chord. These two notes right here stay the same. We're just gonna grab that C and reform the chord. And then we're gonna use the low D, the open string, to get our D in the note, in the chord. So we've got D major, we've got D minor, we've got D7. And D7 is a nice chord to go home to the 1 chord in a song. So when the D7 is the 5 chord, or any 7th chord is the 5 chord, it leads really nice to the home chord. So in the key of G, D is the 5th, right? So we get that D7 chord going home. Here's the D major going to the G. Sounds nice, but listen to this tension. So that's a nice little note to remember, that the 7th chord likes to go home to the 1 chord. So the 5 to the 1, 5 to the 1 in chord progressions. So usually, here's a tip. If you see a 7th chord in a chord chart, that usually means it's the 5th of the key. And so you would know that G is the key you're in. If the 7th chord was a C, F might be the home key. If the 7th chord was an E, A would be the home chord. Quite often that's true. All right, so we've got D major, D minor, D7. Now we're going to look at something called a suspended chord. You'll see it written as a sus chord, either a sus2 or a sus4. Very popular in popular music. Van Halen used this a lot. Eddie, he would play it in certain ways, like that kind of sound, right? It's used everywhere, and once you discover it, once you understand it, you'll hear it all over the place in pop music. So what does it mean, suspended? It means we're going to suspend the third of the chord. We're going to take the third out of the chord. Now remember, all chords are built off of the major scale. So a major chord is built up of the first note of the major scale, the third note, and the fifth note, right? So if we have D, we're going to take that first note, third note, and the fifth note. And we're going to play them simultaneously and get the D chord. That's how all chords are built for rock and roll, for pop. D sus2 chord. That means we're suspending the third and we're putting the second note of the major scale into the chord. So suspend the third, put in the 2, sus2. For a sus4 chord, we're suspending the third and putting in the fourth note of the scale. So what is the second note of the D major scale? E. So we're going to go over to this D chord, our standard D chord, and we're going to look for the closest E note. Well, there's an open E right here, our high E. So we're going to remove our third, which is the F sharp. Look at the D major scale. 1, 2, 3 is an F sharp. We're going to take that out and put the E in its place. So all we're going to do to get this awesome sounding chord is lift this finger and get that open E. So you start to get this kind of sound. Beautiful. So we've got our major, our minor, our 7, our sus2 chord. How about a sus4 chord? Well, what's the fourth note of the D major scale? Now this is true for any key we're in, right? If we were talking about the C chord, we'd be doing the same thing, playing it off the C major scale. The G, the A, the same thing, okay? So what's the fourth note of the D major scale? G. So we're going to look to get a G in here. Well, lo and behold, it's right there. So here's our third. We're going to suspend that, meaning we're going to get rid of it in the chord, and we're going to move it up to this fourth note. Third, fourth, third, fourth. So a sus4 chord. We get this sound. Now let's mix that with the sus2. Beautiful, right? How about the D major 7th chord? Here's our D. The major 7th is adding the 7th note of the major scale into the chord. There it is. That's home. What note is that? C sharp. Where do we get a C sharp? Right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this D note and we're going to move it down. We're going to flat it one tone and we're going to play our D chord like that. And then we're going to get our low D in there as the root note, as the bass note. So here we go. D major, D major 7. Now you could write songs just flowing from one of these chords to the next. Just play all the D chords you know for an intro. Now let's look at a D6 chord. How do we get a D6 chord? Well, we go back to the D major scale and we count up to the 6th note. It is the note B. So here is our D chord. Where is our nearest B? Well, we have an open B string right here. So if we just remove this finger off the D note and play that open B, we get we get a D6. Let's compare it to the D major. It's always nice to compare a different chord to the original chord, to the major chord. So here's the D major, D6. Very nice. Okay, how about a D9? Well, we talked about this in some of our other videos. How do you get a ninth when there's only 7 notes in the scale? Well, you just keep counting up through the second octave of the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The 9 is the 2. I explain in other videos why, but just know that for now. If you see a chord symbol that says 9, it's the 2 of the scale. So in D, the 2 is E. If you see an 11 in a chord, that's just the 4th. It's the 4th up higher, right? So they call it an 11. There's a reason for that. If you see a 13 chord symbol, it's the 6th. Just up higher. So, what is the 9th of the D major scale? Well, it's the 2. And that is an E. So in order to get that E, we're just going to play the open E string. Okay, so today we've learned D major, D minor, D7 or dominant 7, D sus2, D sus4, D9 with that open E. What about a D minor 7? Not just a D minor, but a D minor 7. How do we get a D minor 7 chord? It's a D minor chord, but we're adding a flat 7 to the chord. So go back to the D major scale. We're flatting the 3rd because that's how you get a minor chord. All you do is manipulate the major scale by 1 note. You take the 3 and you lower it 1 tone. And you build your chord around those 3 notes. So it's... But now we're going to add a note to that chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we're going to flat that. And this is going to add some real tension to the chord. So we're going to get that C note into our D minor chord. Well, here's a C. So what we're going to do is we have our D minor. We're going to lift our finger off this D note and we're going to replace it with that C note. So now we have this form. These 2 notes, and then we're adding in the A, and then playing our low D. So today we've covered a bunch of D chords all in the same position here. We've got our D major, our D minor, our D minor 7, our D major 7, our D sus2, our D sus4, our D6, with that open B ringing out. Now let's play around with the D chord a little bit and do some traditional little licks that you can play off this chord. First, we're going to reach up and grab this A note. which is also already in the chord. It is the 5th of D. We're gonna grab it up here. Sounds awesome. Now you can also reach down and grab this G note, which is the 4th. Here's the 5th, here's the 4th of the D major scale that we're adding into the chord. We had this G in here for our sus4 chord. So check out how this sounds. Now, what if we lifted this F sharp, the 3rd of the chord, what if we lifted our finger up and we got the open E and we played around with that? So now we've got all of that available in our chord. Or we can play it in reverse. Or in any pattern we like. So you can see how you can begin to write your own songs here. Here's a little tasty morsel I came up with years ago off the D chord. Add that nice little trill. How many times have you heard that ending? Let's do that slow. Trill off the G note. And then hammer on from the open E to the F sharp. Beautiful little ending. As far as what I was doing in the lick I wrote, I'm reaching up, playing the D, then I'm reaching up and I'm grabbing the E, which is the 9 or the 2. And then I'm leaving this G string open. See, after I lift my finger off the A note and I grab the E here, it leaves this G string open. I left my G string open. Ooh. I don't know how you can open a G string, but anyway, you get the point. Then I reach over here and I grab the 3rd, that F sharp, which is in the chord here. Beautiful. Here's a little country one I like to do. Take your D chord here, reach down, take this A and lower it, and then slide it up like this while you play the D note. Very country. That's pretty fun. So have fun experimenting with this D chord. Move your fingers all around, right? Just grab any note around it and see how it sounds. There, I'm grabbing the C, which is the flatted 7. Just grab anything and see how it sounds. I can grab the B right here, which is the 6th. So how about a low F sharp? The 3rd. Grab it with your thumb. Put that in the chord in its entirety. Use that as a bass note. See what I did there? I put the F sharp in the 3rd, and then I put the E in the 9, and we used 2 bass notes. You can have your bass player do that. So there it is. Lots of stuff with the D chord today. I hope you enjoyed it. Check out the next video where we're going to do the same thing with the G chord.